Hi, this is Terry Sama from PMML. Today I want to present to you the market statistics for the multifamily market in the province of Quebec for the month of August 2022. So, June and July have passed by. We're in the month of August. A lot of people wanted to see how the market was going to react. So I do have some news for you. What you have to know firstly is that the month of August, the two first weeks of August, most of the notary offices were closed. So a lot of transactions did not take place during that the first half of the month. So basically what happens in that case is the market statistics are a little lower for the volume. Second of all, a lot of the transactions that were notarized in August were supposed to sometimes notarize, say, in June, July, and then were postponed into August. So historically, August is not a month where we have high volume, either is July. And historically, the multifamily market picks back up at the 15th of August. Why? Because most of the owners were occupied optimizing the rents in the months of January to March. As you know, in the province of Quebec, we have a rental board and we send notices out to the tenants for the rent increases between the month of January and March. And then the tenant has a wait time and a certain time to answer, and then we optimize our rents. We increase our rents, and once we have the rent increases, then we could go refinance our assets, get the money out, and do our transactions for multifamily. So once that's done, then we have the moving period, which is the 1st of July. So most of the owners are occupied doing the renovations, etc. Then they take vacations in the month of July. And August, everybody's back and operational. But we do have 2 weeks off, basically, where most of the people working in construction are taking holidays, basically, and the rest of the market takes holidays at the same time. So last week of July, first week of August, everybody's more or less absent on the market. Second week of August, a lot of people are on vacation. Third week, that's where the market picks back up. So let's talk about market statistics. Montreal, the greater area of Montreal, GMA, basically. We have lower volume, but we have about $170 million worth of transactions that took place in the two last weeks of August. Most of those transactions are in the 5 to 11 category, of course. And then we have a few in the 12 to 24 and less in the 25 to 49 and 50 category and up. But what's interesting is that almost half of the volume that was transacted, well, a little bit less than half, say a third of the transactions that were transacted in the two last weeks of the month of August were for 50 units and above. And we'll see in the statistics that there's something particular with the price per door happening on the market right now. Even though the interest rates are going up, we're seeing that the market is maintaining a price per door high, meaning that price per door has increased since the month of January 2022. And then stabled off and tapered off, flat line basically, for the months of June, July, and August, but has not yet dropped. So the prices per door I'm maintaining and the cap rates are slightly compressing up. So we were at 3.5, now we're at 3.8 in average for assets of 50 doors and above, and say 3.6 to 3.7 for assets of 25 to 49 doors. Also, what you must know for the Montreal market now, if we're going only in the island of Montreal, what we're seeing here is that the price per door for assets for 5 to 11 units are maintaining quite high at just below $200,000 per door, and that historically is pretty high. And why are we selling assets? Almost 31 transactions took place in that period of time, and the average for those transactions is $197,000 per door. What does that mean? That means that most of the assets which are being sold in that category right now are assets that were already optimized and probably already renovated at high rental value. And it's interesting to see that the buyers that are interested in these assets, although the number of transactions has dropped for that asset category, are people that want optimized and renovated buildings. Always on the island of Montreal, we have about $18 million worth of transactions that took place in the 12 to 24 category, and we're at about $150,000 per door. Now, don't forget that in that category, in the 12 to 25 category, there's a lot of assets where the energy costs are paid by the owner. And therefore, there's possibility to optimize the net revenue either by increasing the revenues or diminishing the expenses. And if you could do that and using the energy to your favor and transferring those fees to the tenants, well, then you're able to optimize your asset more rapidly and being able to refinance on a short term. But interesting to see that the cap rates are remaining low and are between the 3.5 to 3.7 in that category. I would like to talk to you about larger assets. Not many transactions took place. There was a big transaction that took place in Montreal, but also interesting to see in the 50 door and above category that we're maintaining a high price per door. In the month of August, we're about somewhere between 165 to 170,000 per door, depending on the asset depending on the area. So there's a big appetite to buy larger assets right now. People are willing to pay a higher price for concrete buildings, very well situated, and with some value add and with some tenant base already in the building. So that's a market that's being maintained right now. Let's go into Quebec City, a region that I like a lot, where I'm there often on vacations, and I do like to see what's going on in Quebec City because it gives a good idea of what's going to happen in the rest of the regions. But for us, Quebec is one of the main markets, of course. Not many transactions took place in Quebec City. Most of the transactions are in the 5 to 11 category, and some in the 25 to 49. Nothing happened in the 50 and above. Once again, the market was very short, only 2 weeks. But we're maintaining a price per door, which is interesting. I'm seeing smaller assets go for lower price per door. That means that Quebec City, what probably is happening right now is owners are seeing that there's a possibility to optimize a smaller asset. So, contrary to what's happening in Montreal, where the assets are higher price per door, Quebec City the smaller assets are buying a lower price per door. So definitely going to be some value add happening there with renovations and repositioning of assets for sure. One transaction took place in the 50 door and above category and went for about $140,000 per door at a cap rate close to 4.2. Interesting to see that that's happening also in Quebec City, and the prices are maintaining there also. So no drop in price yet. No important drop in price yet, except for smaller assets in the Quebec City region. Sherbrooke, not many transactions took place there, but what we're seeing in Sherbrooke, we're seeing a solid tenant base. For a few months I was saying that the market was more or less lagging as far as rentals. Why? Because a lot of the students were not there anymore, but now the students are back. And they're paying high prices for their rents. Also, Sherbrooke has a big effort to reposition the old downtown district, which is close to the river. I'm thinking about Wellington North, for those who know, Sherbrooke, Corner King, and Wellington. So it's an old district that's being revitalized right now, and where there's a lot of restaurants, a lot of lifestyle happening there, and there's some assets being built. Some assets are being demolished. I'm thinking about the Wellington Hotel that I had for sale back in the day that's been completely demolished by the city, and the city's repositioning the site right now. Also, you have a bus station in that area. And so the tenant base is real solid. Not many transactions took place in Sherbrooke, but the price is maintaining. We're talking about $110,000 per door, a cap rate of about 4.5. which is market and which is really solid. Also, a lot of construction happening in Sherbrooke City in the first outskirt, and buildings being demolished for new build. So a market definitely to follow. Gatineau, almost no transactions. get to know if you're considering that area. You have to look at what's happening as far as densification. There's a lot of permits right now being emitted for vertically built assets, which are going to be really redensifying the area. We're seeing authorizations for buildings of 8, 10, 12 stories high in that area, in areas where basically historically the buildings were not more than 3 to 4 stories high. So that's a main game changer in that area, and a lot of new assets being built with values going anywhere between $350,000 to $450,000 per door. So an area to be followed. Now, let's go talk about top 5 transactions. I always like to give you, an idea of what's going on the market. 4 out of those 5 transactions have taken place in Montreal. Montreal is always a very active market. And I'm going to talk to you about 1 transaction that took place in Quebec City. And we'll see what happens in the next month, where we have 30 days of market. As I'm repeating myself, but August we had 15 days only of market. So 1 major transaction that took place on Notre Dame West, downtown Montreal, core district, purpose-built. You're going to see this more and more, basically buildings being torn down to build some high-rises, call them low-rises if you're looking at Toronto, but high-rises for Montreal. Here we have a building of almost 150 doors that went for $460,000 almost per door. Common areas, very good location, and downtown Montreal was sold directly to a REIT that is very active on the market right now. And of course, this transaction that took place in August was probably closed, previously, either at the end of 2021 or the beginning of 2022, but is now transacting at close to $460,000 per door. And that's going to create a market precedent. So that's going to fall into the comparables of the evaluators and then the banks, and that's going to be used as future market comparable, so to be followed. Sherbrooke West, NDG, for those who know Montreal, NDG is a little west of Montreal, close to downtown, say between the western part of Montreal going to the Pierre Elliott International Airport. It's an area where the rents are pretty high, not in the downtown core, but with good quality of life and good commercial district in the area also for lifestyle. And this asset went for about $164,000 per door. A private sold to a private here. And it's a transaction that went for about $31 million. So interesting to see also. Now let's go close to the downtown core, but on the eastern part of Montreal on Dufault Street. An asset of almost 60 doors that went for about $226,000 per door. The asset was optimized. Once again, I'm seeing a lot of buyers on the market, and the buyers and the sellers are all experienced people right now that are selling and transacting on the market. And in these cases, what I'm seeing is privates selling to privates, and here we have somebody that has a lot of multifamily that sold to somebody that started developing industrial property and then branched off slowly into multiplex over the years. And this transaction went for about $226,000 per door. I want to talk to you about a retirement home that sold for about $135,000 per door. Now, this is the Heron property in Dorval. It had, during COVID, you've seen the stories on the news with this retirement home. And we have somebody that purchased it that's repositioning the asset right now in the market. So, and you're going to see this more and more for retirement homes of below 200 doors. Sellers are going to be just closing them, and buyers are going to be picking them up and trying to reposition the assets either in student homes or in multifamily. And when you're considering such a good location in Dorval, where there's not that much apartment buildings for rent, and there's not that much offer to the market, but there's a high demand because of the REM and because of location. And you're also talking about an asset which is pretty young in age, with a lot of common areas. You can imagine how the repositioning could happen in this building. You could offer common areas to your clientele. You could go get clientele that's looking for lifestyle, etc. And it's easy to reposition an asset which is almost empty, which is the case here. So congratulations to the buyer. My last transaction took place in Quebec City. Quebec City is another one of our hot markets. 64 units, 4 stories high, nothing fancy in this asset, no common areas, nothing important anyway, no services to the tenants apart from your normal what you would normally see on the market. And the transaction went for $140,000 per door. So that shows that the Quebec market is maintaining over time. So if we wrap up, we have a good appetite right now in the market for properties of the 12 to 25 door, 25 to 49, and 50 and above. The transactional volume is dropping right now for properties in the 5 to 11 category asset, but the price is remaining high, meaning that more than likely the properties that are chosen by the buyers on the market for assets between 5 and 11 doors are probably already renovated and optimized. So I'm always available if ever you have questions. If you're looking for a property for sale, please go see our pmml.ca website. Land for sale, landdev.ai, and for a smaller asset, you could go on our GoPlex sites. It's going to be a pleasure giving you another market check in September. And from there on, stay tuned to pmml.tv and take care.